Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gavin Fish. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate all of the kind comments over the last few days. The last time I made a long form video was last Thursday, though I did make a short on Friday that you guys might want to check out. That was fun to make, and thank you all for the kind comments. Today I'm going to continue our conversation into the murder of Gabby Petito. Specifically, I want to talk about the status of the case, and it seems like the major concern that people are having right now is whether or not this case is going to go cold. And I've got some thoughts on that. But before I do, I want to address a couple of things that are changes on the channel. Last week, I did a video after Dr. Brent Blue announced the cause of Gabby's death was strangulation, and then we found the actual document that said manual strangulation. And I was really concerned that that YouTube was going to demonetize the video because I kept saying strangulation, and it is one of those words that they demonetize for. And so what I did is I muted my audio, and then I put a little, bloop, strangulation text on the screen. And there were a lot of people commenting on that, some people defending me for my decision, some people going, why are you doing that? And it made me think a little bit about what is it that's my mission here, right? My mission here is to make good content, to help solve crimes, to look into cold cases and look into injustices. And it occurred to me that I put monetization in front of what the actual mission is, right? Which is to help solve crimes. And so I'm going to not do that. You will notice that I will say strangulation, strangulation, strangulation a million times on this video. It'll probably be demonetized, but I think that's going to be okay. And I've decided to take some advice of some of my viewers and try to monetize in other ways besides just the YouTube advertising. So I will put chapters down below. If you don't care about this next part, just go ahead to the chapter that says whatever I put, discussion on cold cases. But I wanted to show you guys what I've done. Basically, two things. I've decided to go ahead and start a Patreon account. And so if you go to patreon.com/Gavin Fish, and I will link this below, it's linked now on every video, you'll see that I have a Patreon account with one membership level called Citizen Detective. And one of you, who I have already reached out to personally, found this before I ever announced it. So thank you very much for doing that. But basically, I just have one membership level. I want to keep it very simple. I am going to do Patreon only videos, and I'm going to do Ask Me Anything sessions, and then I'm also going to take case suggestions, and I wanted to point it out on my website. So if you go to the website and you click on cases, there is now a new plus button in front of Gabby Petito's picture where you can go and you can suggest a case if you are a Patreon supporter, if you're one of my patrons. If you're not a patron, you won't be able to see this. But basically, it is a way where you can suggest a case, and then my patrons can vote up and down on the cases that you want me to cover. I want to cover more than just Gabby Petito, though that is a very, very important case. But I want to make sure that I am covering the cases and looking into the cases that you all want me to look into. So if you go to the website and you click on this page, from cases, and you see that you cannot see this content, there will be a little red button that will, if you click it, it'll come on over here. If you become a patron at $3 a month, you'll be able to make those case suggestions. I really appreciate that, guys. The other thing that I really appreciate from you all is the documentation that you have been sending me. Now, before I get into whether the case is cold or not and what might happen to make the case cold, I did want to share on the website. Let me get back over here. There is a new document on the Gabby Petito case, and this one would be funny if it weren't so tragic. If we scroll down to the 18th of October, you will see that there is actually a lawsuit in small claims court in Sarasota County from Andrew Griffin against Christopher Laundrie for the claim of $40. And basically what it says is that the plaintiff constructed a sign and put it in their front yard, and Mr. Laundrie took the sign. And of course, we have photos of this. Let's see. This is the sign, and the sign read, "What if it were Cassie?" Something like that. What if she were Cassie? And he went on out, and that apparently to him was the sign crossed a line for him. And he stole it, and now here we are in small claims court, and all of the documents are there. Now, I wanted to let you guys know that I did go over to the federal courts to see if there were any new documents over there in that court case. There are none. Even if there's something that is not public, if it's filed in court, it will show on the docket. It won't let me see it, but it'll show on the docket. So there have been no changes at all. The other thing I want to tell you is this week I am going to be interviewing a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Matt Gruwell. Matt is a professor of biology at Penn State Behrend, which is in the Erie, Pennsylvania area. Matt and I actually saw each other a couple times over the weekend, and we have planned a time where I can sit down with him on Zoom. I specifically want to talk about forensic entomology, and he does teach courses on forensic entomology. And why this is important is because Dr. Brent Blue used forensic entomologist or forensic entomologists, I don't know if it was just one, in order to determine the cause of Gabby's death. And basically, so that is the look at bugs as they interact with the human body post-mortem. So Dr. Gruwell will be coming on the show sometime this week. If you are not subscribed and that is a conversation that will be interesting to you, please do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so you know when I upload it. The other great thing about Dr. Gruwell is that he's a professor of genetics and genomics, and when it comes to DNA, he is my go-to guy to ask questions. And one of the questions that you guys have been asking in the comments and in emails directly to me, that question has been, is it possible that there is DNA, like touch DNA, on Gabby's body, even though it was out in the elements for 3 or 4 weeks, according to Dr. Blue? So we're going to talk to Dr. Gruwell about that. Now, you may notice, guys, that I am going to probably slow down the pace on the videos that come out on Gabby Petito, mostly because I just don't want to be another person who is shouting at the wind, right? When I go to YouTube and I search Gabby Petito and I order it by, upload date, there are so many videos that are just people speculating and talking back and forth and what if this and what if that, and it's just gone crazy. And while people get to do on their channels what they want to do on their channels, I personally don't want to do that. I want to make a difference. I want to help solve this case. Having said that, though, I do want to show you a clip from 60 Minutes Australia that came out over the weekend, and I'm just going to show you maybe a minute of this clip of Gabby's dad, Joe, talking about social media. So I guess my reason for showing you this is I'm not poo-pooing what other people are doing, because the frenzy around social media really has helped. It's just that I don't want to just talk for the sake of hearing my own voice, and I don't want to hear without listening, if I can quote Paul Simon, right? But let's see what Joe Petito had to say about social media.
While Gabby's family grieves her loss, there is some comfort knowing the rest of the world has gotten to know their daughter. They've started the Gabby Petito Foundation and want to use the recognition to help other women escape domestic violence before it's too late.
We won't stop until, people get help and changes are made to help others. There's a big need for a lot of things, and we hope that we can help out with that.
How many missing children, of all colors, of all races, of all genders, go missing that don't have this type of social media, explosion. I'm fortunate that it did. I'm very humbled that it did. But what type of person would I be if I wasted it and not engaged in a conversation that's going to make a difference? So there has to have change. There has to be meaning behind it.
What will Gabby's legacy be?
That she made a difference. That people saw a beautiful soul, and she had an impact, that changed the lives of a lot of people and the world to a better place. There's no more amazing legacy that you could have.
What is always, or over the last couple of months anyway, what has surprisingly impressed me about Gabby Petito's parents, both sets of parents, is that they have been grateful for the social media overflow of coverage on their daughter's case, and they want that coverage for other people. It reminds me of when I started my journey on YouTube and started to investigate cold cases. I did it with my friend Rick Tracewell. And Rick and I, we started Solve Crimes with Rick and Gavin, and I split out on my own, but Rick continues on Solve Crimes TV. And the very first case we ever looked at was this one, the case of Judith Ann Hockery. The way we found this case was we went to, because we're both from Sacramento, California, we went to the Sacramento Sheriff's Office and we looked at their cold case page, and sure enough, and we found this. We found this listing of Judy Hockery, and I don't know, the photo just spoke to us. She went missing in March of 1970, and then a little while later, it was just the next month, her body was found having been beaten to death and strangled. And it just touched both Rick and me. So we went and we just went down the rabbit hole of that case, and we found so much about that case that nobody had covered in the history of the case, right? Because it was so old. It was a very difficult thing to do. Find new information, but we did find information. We found a new witness, and we found all sorts of things that we believe will help in this case. And I think that's what most people are doing in the case of Gabby Petito. I think my style and the way that I can make a contribution to this is by digging into facts rather than just kind of speaking for a long, long time. So that's what I wanted to let you guys know. If you want to support me, you can go to the website. You can click over, at the top of the website, there is, let me see if there's a link to my Patreon account, and please go ahead and support me if you feel like you want to do that, and if you feel like what I'm doing is of some value. Okay, so the thing that I keep promising to talk about is whether or not Gabby's case is turning cold. Like I just showed you with Judy Hockery, that case is cold. It's 50 years old, right? But what is a cold case? So according to Wikipedia, and I know that's not the perfect source for this, but I thought it was a pretty good source. A cold case is a crime or a suspected crime that has not yet fully been resolved and is not the subject of a recent criminal investigation, but for which new information could emerge from witness testimony, re-examined archives, new or retained material evidence, as well as fresh activities of the suspect. So, for example, in the case of Judy Hockery, there hadn't been any new there hadn't been any new information in that case since about 1970. They completely hit a dead end before the end of the year happened in 1970. Now, there were no new leads, and so that became an official cold case. And in Sacramento, California, they have a cold case division that takes care of those things. Now, is Gabby's case in danger of going cold? Well, I looked for some information on that, and I actually got a quote from a person who I'm acquainted with. Her name is Cheryl McCollum. We call her Mac. Mac runs the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute down in Georgia. And she is a rock star when it comes to criminal investigation. And what she said was, as far as this being a cold case, it's a department by department definition, but across the board, typically people will accept 3 to 5 years with absolutely no new leads, no new evidence, no new nothing until it goes cold. And that is so far from where we are. That's not the case here at all. And I absolutely 100% agree with Mac that this is a case where we're getting frequent leads, we're getting frequent sighting reports, and they're continuing to investigate. In fact, I didn't put it on my button, but the police, the FBI have been out in the Carlton Reserve over the last week or so, and I know that a lot of people have thought that maybe they're wasting their time out there. But personally, I think they continue to look in the Carlton Reserve because they have leads that are pointing them there. I have no fear that Gabby's case is going to go cold. I just don't think that it's going to happen anytime in the foreseeable future because it is so far at the front of everybody's radar, right? We all are interested, curious, concerned about Gabby Petito. And so that's why I think that we're not in danger of going cold. We may experience some frustration as law enforcement doesn't share with us everything, right? We may not be able to find any new information on the case, and that may be frustrating for a lot of us, myself included. But I just really don't think that the case is going to go cold anytime soon. So, guys, I guess that's my update on the Gabby Petito case for today. I want you guys to know that I'm not abandoning the case. It's been a few days since I've talked about it, but I'm not abandoning her, not abandoning you on this case. I think it's a very important case, but I'm not just going to talk for the sake of speaking on the case. But having said that, if you all would go to my website and if you have information on the case, please go over to the Contact Me page and fill it out, including uploading files. And I thank all of you who have done that. I have about 1,200 emails that I am now having to go through. I prioritize the ones that have attachments to them, hoping that there is some documentation that I might be able to look at. But what I will prioritize going forward is, let me get back over there. What I will prioritize going forward is information and suggestions coming from you all on this page. So if you want to be my first patron, it's a little too late. Robin is my first patron, but if you want to be my second, you want to be my first to make a suggestion in here, I would truly and deeply appreciate that. Okay, so the next time you guys, the next time we talk, it might be after I've spoken with Dr. Gruwell. I'm also inviting a couple of other people on. Dr. Kenny Clark, who is a forensic pathologist friend of mine, who is a former medical examiner and has such terrific insights into all things forensics. I've invited him to come on the show. We're just trying to figure out a time to do that. And I've also reached out to Detective Jennings to see if he has any more information that he would like to share. And I have some questions for him too. So hopefully we'll have a lot of input on the Gabby Petito case. Oh, one last thing before I sign off, guys. Going back to the conversation about not wanting to be beholden to being monetized or not, I have added merch to the website in the form of t-shirts and mugs and hats. I've got some, everything is Citizen Detective, Speculationville, and Do Not Disturb, or my own logo. So if you guys do want to support me that way, I would really appreciate it if you did. But however you want to support me, even if that means watching my videos, I really appreciate you. So thank you very much. With that, I shall bid you adieu, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below.